Hello and welcome to Life at the Chocolate Factory. In today's episode, we're going to talk about relationships because that's an area that I feel was deeply impacted by everything that I went through. And it's a really tricky topic, but I think it's really interesting. So I want to tap into that in this episode. But I just wanted to give you a quick update. Last weekend, I did go to the pig sanctuary and it was absolutely amazing. I wanted to do a podcast episode with Michelle, who runs the sanctuary, but my camera broke down and it was super chaotic. So I'm obviously going to go there more times. Already planning my next trip. So I think I'm going to do it then because she's really inspiring and she's a perfect example of someone who is really dedicated to their purpose. With that being said, that's actually something that we're going to circle back to in this episode. But with that being said, I think we should just start. I feel weird today. Did a really intense hot yoga session and that might be why. But anyways, so I feel like before I embarked on my journey of personal development, we're always on that journey, but before I really dove into it on a deeper level, I had an addiction to relationships. And I'm not talking about romantic relationships, but I always felt I was an extremely social person with a lot of friends. And it had always been like that, especially in high school where, I was always doing something every weekend. I always had plans. I was always invited to a party. And it was an addiction to always being around people and always doing something. And I got into my first romantic relationship at the age of 18, 19, I think. And then I was just more or less with someone until the age of 26 because I thought that was what it was meant to be like. And during that time, I felt like, I did enjoy an hour or two alone, but I didn't really want to be alone. I saw a relationship as something that completed me. I needed people in my life, and the people that I was friends with, that I was romantically involved with, were people who were similar to me in that way. It was always stuff that was going on, and we needed to be doing something. And I remember how I would always have conversations going on my phone with people. I was constantly talking to someone, and if I was going somewhere, I would call my best friend and we would talk for 4 hours. Or I would come home from university and I would call someone. I would be on the phone with someone 24/7 because I didn't really want to sit with myself. I didn't see the point of that. And I thought that the meaning of life was to be around others all the time. And I think that's beautiful. I think that we should have social interactions, but I don't think it's healthy not to be able to be alone. And I think a lot of times we don't even realize that because we've done it our entire lives. We've always been around people in that way. So we don't realize that it's an issue. And especially not when the people around us keep feeding this and have the same needs. I also remember that if something would happen, I would instantly need to tell someone about it. I'm not like that at all anymore, and I'm quite shocked by it. I always needed to discuss things with everything and everyone and overanalyze it, and it was always stuff going on. And I was in a romantic relationship for 6 years, and I'm so grateful for that relationship, and I have so much love for my ex-boyfriend. I don't have anything bad to say about that relationship other than the fact that the level of comfort I felt and the level of stability that I felt was almost holding me back because I just had to have that in my life. I had to constantly speak to him. We constantly did stuff. It was very codependent, and I didn't even realize that because I thought it was a healthy relationship. It felt like that's how people saw it. They were like, oh, but you two work so well together. But I didn't really realize that it was out of fear and comfort that I was in that relationship and not out of free will. It wasn't really much deeper than that. And it was a deep relationship. It was a deep bond. I'm not saying it wasn't, but it was holding me back from seeing myself and from working on myself. And so were my friendships. I was constantly around people. I was constantly speaking to my friends. It was holding me back and it was holding them back. It's not like I was a victim. We were holding each other back. I think in a way, maybe we couldn't really regulate our own emotions, so we would just throw them back and forth. And, that's an insight that I have now. But back then, I didn't realize it until April of 2022. No, but until the spring of 2022, when I started feeling like I was suffocating in all of my close relationships. And I knew that it couldn't be the people. I didn't really see that as the issue, but I knew that something needed to change within me. And as I've told you before, I was living at home while focusing on Vegan Delight. So even at home, I was constantly surrounded by people. Going from that to isolating myself was a big step. But I just felt like I needed to be alone. But then when I was alone, it was awful. It was absolutely awful. But I ended up putting myself in a situation where I was completely alone. And what started happening was that, first of all, I felt like everyone I was connecting with was being taken away from me for no reason. I mean, I understand why that happened, why that had to happen now. But back then, I just felt like people were leaving my life and I was there alone. And when I was alone, I was just processing all the emotions that I had kept within me for so long and that I had used these relationships to help me regulate. And now I was stuck with them alone. And I would just sit on my bed. I would meditate. I would cry. I would go on walks. I would cry. I would laugh. It was really intense. And I felt like I couldn't connect with anyone. I thought something was deeply wrong with me. That I felt like I couldn't connect with anyone. Not on a romantic level and not on a friendship level. It was me, myself, and I had one or two old friends left that I was speaking to. But even those relationships started feeling really, really strange to me. And I thought that something was wrong with me. But obviously I was shifting. My energy was shifting. And so I fought this for a while. I did sit with it, but I also fought it. I was like, okay, let's find new people to connect with. Not romantically, because I think even then I knew that I would know when I met a person I wanted to be with. Because I believe in true love. I think I've experienced it, so I'm going to go off of my own experience. And I think that when you experience it, you get this intuitive knowing. It's so deep, so deeply rooted, so fated that you know that you won't be able to miss it. The way it just comes into your life when you're not searching for it. I just don't believe that I need to go out and search for someone special, that I need to put myself out there and that I need to go meet different people. I don't believe that. I think that it will come to me. And it might not. I might end up alone, which I have completely accepted as well. I wasn't looking for romantic love, but I was trying to connect with old friends. I was hitting people up. I was like, oh, do you want to go out? Do you want to do something? Let's meet up. But I didn't feel fulfilled from the interactions that I was having. And it was so hard for me. And I was going through so much that was connected to my purpose. And no one would really understand it. And I was trying to explain to them. I was like, so this, and that. And people were like, yeah, we don't really get what you're trying to say. And, so I realized that I cannot even speak about my journey to anyone at this point. So it was really hard, but I think I just hit a point where I accepted that, okay, fine, I give up, I surrendered. And I was like, I'm going to live in isolation. Maybe this is just going to be the rest of my life. And it really felt that way because I couldn't connect with anyone. I had my little fellowship in the US where I could connect with people. After that, it was just nothing. And it was really sad, but I surrendered to it. And I was like, okay, I'm not even going to try to go out. And, I went from having people hitting me up 24/7 to having, like, I didn't even have to be on my phone. I just put it away because I was like, no one's gonna message me. And it was miserable for quite some time, and it felt very lonely. And I was going through all this crazy stuff with Vegan Delights, and I had no one to talk about it with. I hit a point, I think, where I realized that no one's gonna come save me from this misery. Like, no one's gonna help me. The only one who can help me is me. And I need to save myself from this. I need to work on the relationship that I have with myself. I don't even know what I'm looking for in a friendship. Like, I don't even think I'm prepared for that level of love that I want to experience in my life. I need to work on the relationship that I have with myself because I don't even enjoy my own company. And that was a tough realization, obviously, but I knew it needed to happen. This went on. I mean, this started in 2022 and it went on and on and on. And I think in the spring of 2024, I was like, okay, what can I do to enjoy spending time with me? And I wrote everything down, and I was like, okay, if these things would happen, I would enjoy spending time with myself more. And one of those things was like self-trust, self-love, all these things. I just wrote them down, and I was like, okay, well, since everyone's being taken away from me, since I'm not like ready to have any deep relationships, I'll just work on this. And I worked on it. And I also realized that I need to, because my apartment almost felt like a hotel back then. I didn't have any ceiling lights. I was just like living in a way that was very minimalistic because, I don't know what was up with me. But I started fixing things in my apartment, and I was like, now it's cozy. I loved spending time with my dog, reading a book, journaling. I really found peace in journaling. I need to start journaling. I haven't done that in a while. And suddenly I started enjoying my own company. I was baking, I was doing all these things at home alone. And for the first time in my entire life, I realized that I really love being alone and hanging out with myself. And I was like, even if this is the rest of my life, it's okay because I'm actually enjoying it. And now I can focus on what I need to focus on. And not having people around me all the time allows me to grow as a person. And it allows me to understand what it is that I want. It's not just a friendship that I'm going to use as a band-aid. It's a friendship. Okay, I didn't really connect with anyone then either, so it wasn't any friendships. But I thought that if I connect with people now, I want to connect with them on a deeper level. And because, it's just a different type of relationship. And I had one friend that I hadn't spoken to for 7 years, and she came back into my life. She's the person editing this podcast, so a shout out to her. But that made me realize that, whoa, like people can be separated, grow separately, and then come back together when they're ready for it. And that friendship really turned into a beautiful friendship. And I had her and another friend. They were the only people I had in my life. Unfortunately, the other friendship ended, but I think it was there were too many old dynamics in it. Anyways, the year passed and I still felt very isolated and disconnected. I'm not gonna lie. This was 2024, I think. Yeah, last year. And I still felt like, I felt good with myself, but I was like, what? So this is going to be the rest of my life? I'm never going to connect with people. I'm not going to have close friends again. I'm just going to sit here and, not have anyone. And even though I trusted that somehow it might change, I still felt very like maybe it's just meant to be me. So I accepted that. I was like, maybe it's just meant to be me. And then, one of my 2 friendships ended. Again, so much love and respect for the person, but it was just misaligned and it was filled with old dynamics that weren't good for anyone, any of us. So that ended and I was like, okay. I was like, all right. And Christmas came, and even during Christmas, I felt like disconnected. And I love Christmas so much. Like, Christmas is a big deal for my family, but I felt disconnected. But what I learned by then was that when I feel so disconnected, when I feel a lot of sadness, grief, darkness, whatever, usually something really good is on the other side of it. So I just sat with it and I was like, okay, I accept it, universe. Thank you so much. I'm just going to retreat back into my apartment and, isolate myself. And then after Christmas, I was like, what is going on? A whole new world opened up for me. I started connecting with the people left and right. It was like all over. I went from not having anyone speaking to me at all to having people messaging me to having people reaching out to me. And this time it was people who were really aligned with my purpose and what I wanted to do. And they wanted to do similar things. And it was like connections that were like more aligned with the person that I had become. I also had a lot of relationships that had been in my life deepen. People whom I knew were meant to have a big role in my life became more involved in it. And it was really cool because it was like that support that I thought that I needed was now given to me, but it wasn't that I needed it. It was just really nice to have. But I also knew that I could do it on my own. And so it's been really beautiful. And it was also in the middle of this that I connected with Michelle, who runs the pig sanctuary. We connected on such a deep level. It was like instantly we were both like, whoa, like, why do we understand each other so well? Like, it feels like our connection is so deeply faded. I have so many other people who came in, like Martina, Christine. If you're listening to this, you know that it's also like we're building beautiful things together. We're building something called the Moonlight Society. I'm gonna get into that in another episode too. And I just realized that, I needed to build the relationship with myself, and I needed to let go of old dynamics that weren't serving me anymore in order to invite something new into my life. And it's crazy because I'd heard people talk about like, yes, you're gonna align with people like your soul tribe later on, but I didn't believe it because I was literally in isolation for so long. Like, I felt like I'd gone from being like a super social extroverted person to being like, okay, I'm gonna sit at home every weekend staring at a wall. So I didn't think this would happen, but it did. So what I'm trying to say with this episode is that if anyone's going through something similar where you just feel like everything and everyone is leaving your life, instead of fighting it, sit with it, isolate, and try to build that relationship with yourself. Try to come into union with yourself. Because when you've done that, you're going to start attracting in relationships and people that are really aligned with the work that you want to do. I'm speaking from my own experience, and that's really what happened to me. And I find it really interesting as well because I'm going to turn 30 this year, and I thought that I would be in a relationship right now. I thought that I would, be getting married soonish, but I could care less about that. I feel so happy and content with my life right now, and I know I don't have to search for true love. I know I don't have to search for it. I know it will come when the time is right. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And, I'm fine with that. And I don't judge anyone who's dating or searching for the one either. But I just think that forcing it just drains your energy. And I don't have to find people. People will find me. So I never thought I would get here, but I'm here. And I'm really proud of myself for being able to say that. And I know it's cliche and I know everyone says it, but it's the relationship you have with yourself. That's the most important thing. And when you sort that out, everything else will fall into place. So yeah, it's a very exciting time that I'm in right now. And there's so many things happening with Vegan Delights, and I'm almost scared because I'm like, this is too good to be true. I'm waiting for something really bad to happen, but it's not happening. I hope it's going to continue like this, and I think that sometimes you just need to find that stability within yourself. But it's a really exciting time, and I just feel like a new beginning is coming. And I think I know what it is, but I don't even want to. I just think it's a new chapter in my life, and it's really cool. And so I'm looking forward to sharing that with you and sharing everything that's going on with Vegan Delights right now. It feels unreal. It feels completely surreal because I've gone through so much, and I never thought that this would be the end result of it. I knew intuitively, somehow I was like, okay, there has to be a light at the end of the tunnel, but I didn't realize it could get this good. And I'm not saying I don't have bad days. I have bad days. I have anxiety. I have days where I'm just like low energy, don't want to do anything, but I just feel really grateful for my life. So yeah, I'm not one for like talking for hours and hours without having anything to say. So I think that in the next episode, we're going to discuss my visit to the pig sanctuary and what I did there, because it was really, really nice. So I hope that you're going to tune in next time. And thank you so much for listening.